Welcome to Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned leaders in the quick service restaurant industry. Each week, we serve up actionable insights and proven strategies to help you lead smarter, build stronger teams, and elevate operations. Whether you're taking your first steps into leadership or refining your expertise, we're here to fuel your growth and spark big ideas. Let's dig in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. My name is Riley Shine, and I'm with
Eric Jaworski.
Eric Jaworski. We're here, and this is a fun one today. I'm excited.
Yeah? What is this one going to be?
Oh, this one's about emotional intelligence. And I'm not talking about feelings, Eric.
I know. When you first brought this episode up, I said, okay, what are we going to get into here, right? Everyone's got feelings, and we know that. You know?
This is not therapy, but highly recommend it if you want to take that route. This is more on how to manage your own emotions and recognize emotions of others and be able to respond to that. And relating that to the QSR industry in your restaurant. And it'll help you lead other people, and it'll help you build trust with your team and your customers. So It's a big one, though.
When you said emotional intelligence, I thought to myself, okay, well, this is easy, right? Like we can handle this. We all know emotions, and right away it popped into my mind about a customer walking in to our restaurant, and they've got their bag in hand. We've been there, right? They've got their bag in hand. They're stomping towards the front counter. You guys make eye contact, right? What's coming.
Yep.
And you know what's coming? They literally said, I had the most amazing meal ever.
Oh, I wish.
Oh yeah, that not too often does that happen. But in all reality, we already know, right? The customer's coming in. There's going to be something wrong, and we need to prepare ourselves. Like at least I do. Like, okay, what's coming? How am I going to be ready? Like, what am I going to react to? Right? Past experience. You might do all these plethora of things. But at the end of the day, they've got a bad fry. This guy comes in. Hey, my fries were terrible. What do you do, Riley?
Oh man, the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is kind of just shoo them out, right? Which is easy to do.
Let me go grab that fry.
Let me go grab that fry and get you out the door because I don't either for whatever reason, right? I don't want to deal with you. I'm not confident enough to deal with you. Whatever that reason is, you just want to get them out the door and focus on your other customers, right? And I think that's where a lot of the times we miss the mark with this type of customer.
Okay.
Because a lot of times they're just wanting to be understood and heard, not necessarily, do they want a replacement. For the most part, though, they probably still want you to fix it because, there's that. But we coach our teams to use LCR. And LCR is listen, connect, and resolve.
Okay.
And when I say listen, I mean truly understand, like listen to understand rather than listen to react, because again, we want to get them out. So we were like, oh, I'm sorry about your fry. Here you go. Bye. And that's really missing the emotion or the feelings that guests want from us. They want us to really understand the problem. And the second part is connect. And when I say connect, I mean put yourself in the guest's shoes. Have you ever been to a restaurant where you maybe got a meal that wasn't up to standard or was cold or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it happens.
It does. It just happens.
People make mistakes, and I can't tell you. There are things out of our control as far as how people react to those things. It might escalate to a certain issue, but before it gets there, we can connect and de-escalate. And the way that I tell people to connect is truly understand where they're coming from. So this guy's got bad fries. If I had bad fries, if I spent my money on food or whatever, and it wasn't up to standard or wasn't up to my expectation, I would also feel a little upset. Now, my upset might look different than their upset, but the sentiment's still there, right? So being able to connect with them and say, hey, you know what, sir, I do apologize for your cold fries. Let me go ahead and fix that for you. If I got cold fries, I'd also, be upset with my fries. So making sure that we take ownership of that, acknowledge the issue, like I apologize that you received cold fries. It's not the standard that we want. I understand why you are upset about your cold fries.
Yeah.
Let me fix it for you.
Yeah.
So now instead of just shooing them out, fixing it, and sending them on their way, we've taken the time to connect with them and actually resolve the issue. Because if we didn't do that, you may not want to go to this restaurant or this food establishment anymore because they just shoved you off. Here, let me fix it. Here you go. Goodbye. But if we take the time and actually connect with them and resolve the issue, they're more apt to come back and spend their money at your business.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to hit on a couple key things. What you said is great, right? And the listen, the connect, like let's get them coming back. All of this can happen in 10 seconds. Like it doesn't have to be this huge long out process of, okay, let's have a 5-minute conversation about this bad fry, right? So I just want to make sure that our audience understands that all of these things can be organic, and the more organic, the better. But what if the issue, have you ever had it happen though? Like where you come in and maybe you had 2 or 3 issues, but as soon as I say what was a bad fry, all they're doing is fixing the fry. And it's like, well, wait, I also was missing maybe the ketchup, or I needed this, or I needed that, or maybe you didn't have napkins. Like there's sometimes there's more. And when we don't listen, we don't maybe always solve all the concerns.
Yeah, we're quick to resolve the issue. We want, like, again, we want them to be happy. We want them to have everything that they need. But to your point, there are times maybe where we cut them off, or we listen to a certain point and then we jump in, and that can sometimes make it worse. Right.
My favorite thing from what you've just shared with the audience here is connecting with the guest, right? I agree with you. I would also not eat these, right? Or whatever that might look like. Like share that. Share it, and when we share that same sentiment or those feelings with a customer or whoever it might be, it's showing a lot more empathy. Yeah, and you're gonna have better connections.
Yeah, and again, it'll bring them back because they realize that you understand their feelings or their emotions around the thing. And another thing, depending on the example, right? You said they might have multiple things. Now, use your judgment. If it was a bad fry, obviously replace that. But if it was a plethora of things, maybe go back and be like, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry you had this experience. Let me offer you this coupon for next time, or this dessert, or whatever it may be. Go that extra mile for them because, again, that'll further the connection and want them to come back as well.
Yeah, especially when it's sincere, right? Yeah. The sincerity of that just goes a long ways. So, having an angry customer walk into the restaurant is an easy thing to identify. Like you and I both know, right? Them stomping in and the face and all that kind of stuff. Like I can figure that out, Riley, but I can't always figure out when somebody's upset though. Like there's team members of ours that might be dealing with things, but maybe their face doesn't show that.
Yeah.
So, how do we help on that?
That's great, because this is the other part of emotional intelligence. So we've talked about kind of the example with the bad fries. You can see it clearly that they're angry. And there are many emotions in the restaurant industry, right? There's tired, there's angry, there's maybe sad. Hopefully nobody's sad. Hopefully we got some happy people, excited people. We talked about goals the last episode, making sure people are energized, right? But to your point, sometimes you can't tell. And so there are 4 components to emotional intelligence. The first part is self-awareness, knowing what triggers you and what elicits a response from your emotions. Self-management, how do you appear to your peers? Is your facial expression, your body language, things like that. Awareness of others is kind of what you're referring to.
Okay.
And then the last part is relationship management. So those are the 4 components of emotional intelligence. And so you brought up awareness of others. And honestly, it's a little easier than you think.
Okay.
So you're a leader in the restaurant. Take some time and get to know your team. And I'm not talking, be best friends with them and be all buddy-buddy. But get to know them. Ask them. We talk about, how was your day? What'd you do over the weekend? Find out what makes them tick a little bit and what their behaviors are. And then now from there, you can use things like body language and tone and eye contact to gauge somebody's emotion or how they're feeling. And I think that's a really great way to kind of sniff out those things.
Yeah, and I think as you connect with team members, right, they're going to come to you more often, and you'll be able to pick up on some of those triggers a little bit easier. I used to have a really tough time connecting with people, and I think sometimes we try to force those connections, or we have a hard time connecting. Well, they're so much different than me. But what I've realized over the years is that there's always something that we have in common with somebody,
Yeah.
right? Like it might be hard to find those things, but we have things that we have in common.
Yeah.
And when we find those things, when we can connect on like you said, just a little bit deeper of a level, it's not like I'm going to go out and maybe have a beer with everybody, right? But I can find ways to connect with people. And from there, hopefully they'll share more. But I like what you said about like, if you don't have those, how do we look at the body language type stuff? How do we look at their facial expressions? How do we try to read into those things? And being aware of that and knowing what to do with it could be two separate things though.
It could. And this reminds me of an example years ago when I was working in the restaurants. I was in the kitchen, helping the kitchen team during the rush. All of a sudden, it's busy. We're really busy. We're slammed. We're making all the food. And I just hear this yelling from the front line, right? And it's the manager saying, "Where's my food? I need these dropped. Where's this? Where's that?" And they're like yelling at the kitchen team.
That doesn't happen.
It does.
Okay. Yes.
But this person that they were yelling at, their performance was usually pretty rock solid.
Sure.
Right? I worked with this person for a while. And, you know, me being a bystander to that, essentially, you know, I started feeling like cold. Like, whoa, what's going on here? And the difference there is that this manager could have easily taken a second, realize it's not what you say, it's how you say it, collected their thoughts and approached that team member and recognized that, hey, maybe this is an off day for them. Hey, Bob, I realize that, you know, today's Monday or whatever, and, you know, maybe you're going a little slower. You know, would you like to change positions? What can I do to help you to make the team more successful?
Sure.
And coming at it from more of that intent rather than obviously yelling at your team.
Yeah. And I think the self-awareness piece is huge when it comes to that part of it, right? Like we sometimes yell, but we don't even think we're yelling. So how do we help our team and ourselves understand like where our blinders are?
So our blinders are our triggers, right? So self-awareness, that is the biggest piece of emotional intelligence, in my opinion, is knowing what your reactions are, what are your triggers, and knowing how to respond and fix those. For example, if you know, you got, say you worked 16 hours the day before, that's a lot, but you're tired. Say you're tired and you roll up to work. Take 5 minutes, decompress, you know, and then go into the restaurant and just clear your mind. It's cliche, but people say, you know, like leave it at the door, okay, or bring the weather. I like that one, but the leave it at the door part is a little complicated.
Okay.
When you're having a bad day or you're having a rough time with something, now you don't have to get personal, but share that with your team. We just talked about connecting with the gentleman with the bad fries. Well, hey, when you come into work and you're ready to start your shift, hey team, I'm on 4 hours of sleep. Might be a little grunchy today. Now all of a sudden they are like, oh wow, that was really authentic of them, you know, and they warned me essentially that, hey, I'm having an off day. So now all of a sudden, if I do yell, they can kind of realize like, okay, that's just them having a rough day.
Well, maybe they can call us out on it.
Or they can call us out on it.
Hey, look, you said you were having a rough day, right? I'm feeling it.
I can feel your rough day.
Yeah.
But understanding your triggers, and that's different for everybody, right?
Okay.
The emotional intelligence is a vast topic, but knowing how to manage that yourself and being aware of those triggers that can maybe set you off in those different ways.
Sure. And talking about people and their personalities can be a really hard subject. And like you said, it's not necessarily feelings, but it's perspective of other people, right?
Yeah.
Like I felt you were yelling at me. I felt like you were being angry with me. We've had people where their facial expressions, right? Like the resting face, right? We'll keep it PG for our audience here. But sometimes people that we work with or ourselves, right? We have this facial expressions that maybe we're not frustrated or we're frustrated with ourselves, but that impacts our team. So from an awareness standpoint, when we get that feedback, how do we not take it personally?
Well, I think that all goes back to the intent.
Okay.
And I think if your person who's bringing up your face
It is, I get it. All right.
is coming from an intentional mindset of, hey, I'm trying to just be a friend or be a coworker, a peer, and help you notice this.
Yeah.
Then I think that's okay. But I think also on the flip side, if you're saying it in, again, not what you say, how you say it. If you're trying to be mean back or give them what they gave you back, then that's kind of like a little bit of a different situation.
Sure. I just feel as leaders, we have to be very welcoming of any and all feedback, regardless of the intent that's given to us, right? Like for our team, we may need to make sure that our intent is there.
Yeah.
But regardless of the feedback, it's coming from a place that they feel, right? Like once again, it's their perspective, whether we agree with it or not. And I think just taking the time to really reflect on that is a little bit more important than sometimes we might think, right? Because right away, if you come to me and you say, hey, Eric, here's what I see, especially when it comes to feelings, I might be, whoa, no, right? Like that, that's not me. That's not happening. And who are you to tell me, right? So from an emotional intelligence standpoint, I think there's a lot of work to be done.
In the world of QSR, it's ever changing. There's different goals, different things. There's always something, right, that's going on in the industry, and making sure that we take time for these things is the hard part. I think that a lot of us, to your point, I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not my leadership. It's not this. It's not that. It's other things, whatever, right? And so when we teach this stuff, when we talk about this stuff, we really want them to take it to heart and look at themselves, be self-aware, and work with their team and be authentic is truly what it comes down to. And you could have an authentic personality to where you're saying maybe they're not intending to be rude or they're not intending to yell, but that's their authentic self. Yeah. Cool, but let's talk about that and have those conversations with our team to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And the talking about it can be really hard. And it can be a very emotional conversation. And I think just laying out that groundwork for those conversations, right? It's important to gather feedback from both ways and being intentional about that, right? My intent is to not upset you, right? My intent is to not whatever that might look like, because we have it, right? We have who's working today. Oh, I don't want to work with them. Or, hey, I'm working on Tuesday night. Who's the manager on duty? Oh,
might call off.
Yeah. So I think just like, how do we, instead of not wanting to work with those people or not wanting to maybe avoid those shifts or whatever that might be, not talking to the person about their performance, like how do we help ourselves get past that? How do we take that, perception of those people that we see and have better conversations? And I don't know if we can have those conversations until we're able to take the feedback ourselves.
I agree. Yeah. Because I was just going to say, it's an internal journey at that point.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with receiving that, and I think that's where a lot of us struggle with being okay with getting that feedback and realizing the intent. Again, the intent has to be there though.
Yeah.
Because if the intent's not there, then it might be a little different of a situation.
And that's where I would suggest, Riley, as our viewers watch this, as our leadership watches this, I really do think it starts with us, right? And we talked in our previous episodes, right? Like lead yourself first. This is an amazing opportunity for you to go back and take a look at your own emotional intelligence and the perception that people have on you. One of my biggest things that I was able to do that helped me with this is really just have people do reviews on me, have the leadership around me do some 360 evaluations and make them anonymous or whatever you need to do to get as much honest feedback as you can. And then as you're reading that feedback, take it seriously. Because I know in a few things, there's some verbiage used. It's like, wait, that's me? That's how I'm perceived? And, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I am doing that. Maybe I can be better there.
It's very eye-opening.
Yeah, and it really can be. But I do think the leading yourself with the emotional intelligence, hey, what can I do better as a leader for you, right? Before you go and attack them. And once again, you're not attacking.
Right.
But they're going to perceive it as attacking because they don't know your intent yet.
Right.
So I just, me personally, on my journey of leadership and trying to have better emotional intelligence, it really came down to, hey, let's really get me first, right? Like I want everyone to just to critique me.
An Eric roast.
Yeah, right? Like that's
an anonymous Eric roast.
For sure. Like, roast me. Roast me. Tell me everything that you don't like and let me work on that. I remember doing this with the kids, man. This was probably the worst thing. We were leaving church and I can't remember what the conversation was, but it led to basically like, let's pick on dad. Let's say everything that's wrong with dad. And I didn't think the list was going to be so long, but like one after another, the kids, and Nikki was no help because she jumped in on this. And I'm going to tell you, we're like 40 or 50 things down the line. And I'm like, okay.
Take it easy.
I'm going to cry, right? But no, it was really eye-opening, the fact that they could just
they had all those things ready.
They just had them like, I can't wait for the day that I get asked for feedback, right? So I would just encourage you to talk to your team. Talk to your team in a safe environment.
And set up the intent.
Yeah.
Like my intent is to become a better leader for you. So I would like you to either, be an anonymous survey or just if you feel comfortable sharing those things with me. But then you have to be able to manage yourself.
Yeah.
So that if you do hear something that maybe, whoa, that's me. Like, no, that's not me. Yep. Being able to control that and actually understand, because it could go bad if you don't.
Yeah.
Because if you say, hey, here's my intent, and then you double back on that and say, oh no, I don't do that. Yeah. Well, now you just invalidated their feelings.
I just do. I think it bridges the gap for us to be authentic leaders with our people, right? The rapport building part is there, because if I meet you day one and I go to say, hey, your face, right? Like you may not want to hear that day. So sure. I think there's a lot to be said for us being, like I said, just authentic and building a relationship, finding that 1% that you do have in common with that person that maybe you just don't understand or don't get, or they're completely different from you. You have something in common with them. Find that commonality, find the rapport, make yourself available to be better, and take a look in the mirror and say, okay, what can I do better? Yeah. And take their feedback and try to do something with it. You might not be able to fix everything, right? Because this takes, I know you mentioned before, like this takes time.
Yes, it's and it's never, you're never done.
Sure.
With this, like
no,
with emotional
never.
intelligence.
I have to always.
No, what I mean is it's a constant thing.
Okay.
Because you've got different team members, you've got new hires, you're always interacting with new people, and you're always going to be stretching this emotional intelligence muscle. Yeah. So making sure that you've got a good foundation of your self-awareness and your self-management and your awareness of others, that sets you up to then always be able to, gauge that.
I love this. I love the conversation on emotional intelligence. I think I'm going to go back and try to get more feedback, right?
Yeah, I should too.
I can be better.
Yeah, I don't think I've done one in a while.
Yeah,
360. Yeah.
It's going to be great, especially as we continue this journey and we continue to be better leaders for everybody and for ourselves. Yeah. So great topic. I appreciate you bringing this
No
one
worries. Emotional intelligence is one of my favorite topics just because it's a real thing. And I think in this industry and with the different generations, it's important to try to be authentic and be self-aware and use these things. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, guys. We talked about emotional intelligence and some fun stuff. Stretch those EIQ muscles, and we will see you next time.
All right. Awesome. Good day.
Thanks for joining us on Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. We hope today's episode inspired fresh ideas for your leadership journey. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and keep learning with us as we continue to explore leadership in the QSR world. Until next time, take care and lead well.